All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Yoakum. This is ProInsight. And today we're going to talk about the dialogue of objections. And we want to be able to be able to respond to the questions that our clients are having, especially right now in this rapidly changing environment. And there is a way that we're going to do this that is hopefully establish you as an authority, also not paint yourself into a corner, and do it in a way that will enhance your relationship with your client. By the way, according to NAR, the number one reason why the consumer is going to choose you is because they trust you. So you never want to do anything that's going to violate that trust. The number two reason is because of local market knowledge. And so if there ever was a time that you'd want to be a student of the market, wow, it is right now. I heard a statistic the other day, and I don't know that it was true, but I'm going to quote it because I'm sure that it's close to being true if it's not true. And that is that we hit a 35-year low in terms of affordability nationwide. So the trailing indicator of the market is closings, right? Because those sales happened in some cases months ago, and now they're being recorded. The next precursor to that would be listing inventory. And as you guys are seeing, the listing inventory is shifting pretty rapidly. We're going from a super, super strong seller's market, not quite to a buyer's market yet, but the pendulum is swinging pretty hard right now. But the precursor to that is affordability. So if you want to know what's going to happen, you look to affordability, and everybody should know what the affordability is in their marketplace. And what I'm talking about is there's actually an index, and you can usually Google it in your market, but it's, I believe it's the median priced home that what percentage of the population can buy the median priced home with a specified down payment. I think it's 20%, which of course a lot of people don't have 20% to purchase with, right? So you can imagine that it's even lower than that. But more importantly, you want to look at the trend, and you want to look at when that number has hit that in your area, because different areas will support different levels of affordability. What sort of impact did it have on the marketplace? Okay, now the really good news that I'm going to share with you, because it seems like there's all kinds of news that is trending negative at the moment, is that we are not in a convenience marketplace. One of the beauties of our marketplace is that the reason why people buy and sell is because they have babies and they need a bigger home. They pass away. They get new jobs and have to transfer with them. They lose their job and have to get another job. Their businesses are growing and they need to move with that. Their businesses are failing and they need to move. They pass away. My point of that is that these are all really, really significant life events that drive the decision to buy or sell a home. Now, there is obviously, in addition to that, there are people buying second homes, there are people buying investment properties, there are people that are buying homes for kids so they can go to college. There's all kinds of other motivations that spur people to buying and selling property. But the main point I want to leave with you is it doesn't matter if you hear the sky is falling in those markets. By the way, Tom Daves, my business partner, that was his highest volume. He became an REO agent and he was doing incredible volume, 7 times the number one KW agent in the world. And then at the back end of that, he aligned himself with Blackstone. At one point, Tom was representing over 100 purchases a month in the Sacramento area with Blackstone, which is just a crazy number of transactions, I know. Of course, he had to do that with a team of people. But my point is that The market might be going up, it might be going down. There's going to be transactions. There's going to be about 5 million plus sales a year, and there's going to generally be 2 agents in each of those transactions. So there's plenty of opportunity for you. You're just going to have to figure out how to capture it. And what today's talk is about is the dialogue around this market. And I'm going to offer up what I'm imagining are some of the questions that you're going to be posed with right now. But I want you to feel free to put a question or an objection in the chat that you're finding particularly challenging so that we can address it. Okay. So I'm going to start off with, why would I buy now? I mean, you know, interest rates have gone up really dramatically. For most folks, we're now close to about 6%. The prices are crazy. We're at the tail end of a, you know, arguably 10-year appreciation cycle. And so why purchase now? Okay. Now, I'm going to put purchasing into 2 different categories. And one is it a personal residence purchase or is it a income property purchase? And the reason why, in my mind, that's really relevant is because if it's a personal residence purchase, I personally don't believe that purchase should be done with an investment mindset. You're always going to be living somewhere. You're going to require shelter for yourself, for your family. And so people, in my opinion, should be buying their personal residence to fit whatever the need is of their family. And the question then becomes, well, okay, but should I do that now? Okay. And also, you know, whenever something like this happens where we have a shifting of the market, there are opportunities that go away. We don't get to buy homes with 3% interest rates anymore, but new opportunities arise. Okay. The vast majority of the speculating investors have left the market now. Okay. And so your clients that would not have been able to get into a home with a, you know, with, let's say, a FHA VA loan just 90 days ago are getting in now. They're getting properties they wouldn't otherwise be able to get. And so, and here's the thing. Yes, it's a 30-year mortgage, but some people are actually opting for adjustable rate mortgages now. And even if you go with a fixed, there's nothing precluding you from refinancing that property in when the rates go down. And I do believe they will go down. I think the way that this is going to play out, and, you know, again, I'm not in control of the Fed, okay, but I think the way this is going to play out is they're going to keep pumping the rate up to tame inflation. And once they tame inflation and we have acknowledge that we're in a recession, which, by the way, I believe we're in a recession right now. But it takes, in order to be in a technical recession, we have to have 2 consecutive quarters of declining GDP, gross domestic product. And we haven't closed the quarter yet, although we're just about to. And I think that that will formally signal that we're in a recession. And unfortunately, though, they still can't necessarily lower the rate right away until they tame that inflation. So we do have a particular challenge in this environment. But if we have a declining marketplace, that should inhibit prices just because of restraint of growth. And so I do believe the inflation will come under, will come down, although it probably slower than we want it to. And then they will eventually be able to lower the rates again. And they'll probably try a sort of a stimulus like they did before. And then your clients will be able to refinance. Just a second. Hey, Tyler, will you shut that door? Yeah. So let me get some feedback from you guys though. Are you getting that question? And if you are, how is it coming in? Does anybody have been poised with that question? Why should I buy now?
Don, I'll start. So I've been asked that by a lot of pretty much everyone I come into contact with.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been telling them exactly what you just said, because there's so many buyers out there. For the last 3 years, the only buyers I've worked with, except for a handful, were cash or 20% down or more. Occasionally I'd have like a 5 or a 10. I had just a few of FHA that lucked out. I put everyone on a plan. So it's not that you can't, it's just if you follow the plan, it might take a little bit longer. But now I have VA, FHA, 5, 10%. And I'm telling them, obviously, if it's VA, well, VA loan is our superior loan. It's a great loan. With FHA, there's only so much you can do with rates, but that's a good program for people that don't necessarily have the best credit and just want to get in and lock. But for the 5% or 10% people, I am saying, let's use the adjustable rate. Let's plan in the future. How long do you plan on staying in the house? Let's do a 7 or 10-year ARM. And then the key there is matching them with a mortgage partner that can help follow and watch them, that really, truly, genuinely cares, so that when interest rates go down, it's kind of top of mind on who to reach out to. So it's kind of changed the game of ensure you talk with and keep your clients up to date. And there's a big level of trust. But now all those buyers that were in the 10 offers, 15 offers, heck, 20 offers sometimes, actually should be entering the market. I could give a really good argument of why all of a sudden those people have the best opportunity, because eventually when rates come down, guess who's going to take over again?
Yeah, exactly. So they'll just refinance and they'll have their home that they wanted. And yeah, so you guys, there was another question in the chat about people expressing a lot of uncertainty at open houses. And here's the thing. Remember what I said at the beginning of the call is that people buy and sell for really big reasons. Okay. They are being born, they're passing away, they're having job transfers, right? Businesses are growing or failing, right? These are really big fundamental things that are happening in their lives. And so there's about 5 million of those that occur per year. And so when you're talking with people, you may be in fact talking with people that are not having one of those life events occurring. Right. So those people months ago were buying because of the speculation, because it seemed like prices were just going up. And it was, it's almost like the greater fool theory. Okay. But you may need to be more discerning about which clients that you spend your time with. In other words, be careful of spending time with people that are not really motivated, that don't have one of those really big reasons to buy or sell a home. Okay. One of the ones I struggled with the most were people that were trading down, right? They want, and that because the motive is so small for that, right? And another thing that we're going to have is that people are going to be, the homes that they're in have really low rates. So why would I sell my home and then move into a higher interest rate? That's a tough one. Okay. Again, they will do it if the reason is big enough. So how are you positioning yourself to get in front of those people? Okay, when the statistics are when people get married, something like 52% of them buy a home. And interestingly enough, about the same percent, there's usually a sell and a buy involved when there's a divorce. Okay, so are you in relationship with a divorce attorney? right? So you've got to figure out how to align yourself with the professionals that are involved with the events that are big, that are really material, so that you have people that are going to go. Because whenever, this is the third cycle that I will have gone through, by the way. Okay. And in both of the other ones, I would, when we were in the depths of the market, I would go in and I would run a sold report. And it was just the number, the volume in my market. I remember I was a speaker at the Masters Club one time in Sacramento. And, you know, everyone was complaining about how bad the market was. And so I ran this stat, and there was some, like, you know, there was like $3 billion in sales that had occurred year to date in our market. And, you know, my point is, there's a ton of business going on out there. If you ever question that, just go run a sold report for the last week in your MLS. Okay. There's plenty of sales going on. The question is, how do you position yourself? Okay. But and again, as Sarah had shared, you know, we're now, the good news is we're getting people into homes today, categories of buyers. We couldn't get into homes, or it was extremely, extremely hard to get into homes 3 and 6 months ago, right? So let's see. I want to have some more objections from you guys. So by the way, you know, this is a time also when your vendors can really make a difference too. For example, you know, we're talking about how inflation and interest rates and all of this stuff are going to affect the marketplace. Boy, having a really skilled lender can make a world of difference as well. So what you're looking to do is surround yourself with people that are better than you, right? And so when someone's asking your opinion of the market, you know, you want to then ask, well, what aspect of that do you want to know, right? Like, you should know the affordability, right? But if rates are going up or down, it's interesting, you know, we had the rates actually tick down the other day, which was interesting to see. And because the way that the pricing goes, they're anticipating the way the market is going to behave. And like, all of a sudden, if it becomes confirmed that we believe, I think most people are believing that we're already in a recession. So I think that's one of the reasons why the rates actually went down the other day, is because they're feeling like, well, once we can fully acknowledge that there's going to be a recession, we're not going to have the same pressure on pushing the rates up, because the recession is going to put a damper on it. Okay. But have a great lender that answers those questions for you, right? And so that you're not the one in the hot seat necessarily. Okay, so besides why should I buy now? And I hope what you heard me say is, first of all, not everybody should buy now, okay? And so don't try to force a square peg into a round hole, all right? But when you are with somebody that's in one of those categories where they actually have to move, then that's the client we all strive to get. And I'm sure, you know, I can hear you guys saying, well, yeah, Don, well, those are hard to find. Okay. Well, if it was easy, anybody could do this job. Okay. So you're going to have to be a little more diligent. Like I asked you a few moments ago, are you in a relationship with a divorce attorney? Okay. Are you in a relationship with a wedding planner? Okay. Those are the two ends of the spectrum, right? And both of those can be fantastic referral sources. Okay. All right, you guys, let's have a little more interaction though. I want to hear another. Donna, do you have, I see your hand?
Yeah. The one I've heard a couple times is, I'm going to wait and see what the market's going to do. And then that's so open-ended, I don't know how to respond. I mean, I'm sure there's some good questions I should be asking.
Yeah. And are we talking about a buyer or seller?
Buyers. And one of them was an investor, another one, somebody who wanted to move into Portland from California, and I've heard it in the past, but I heard it a couple times recently and didn't know how to respond.
Yeah. Well, first thing, before you go responding, ask some clarifying questions. Is the person coming from California to Portland? What's the motive of moving?
To be in a less congested area and to own a home, because it's so expensive in California, they can't buy there. So affordability.
And do they own a home in California?
No, they're renting.
Okay.
And they've
All right.
saved up some cash and want to buy here.
Okay. Got it. And are they going to do like a low down FHA something?
No, they were going to pay cash.
They're going to pay cash for that.
Yeah. Yeah. But they only have enough cash to buy a home that would be way on the outskirts, or like they're having trouble finding something they can afford with the cash they have.
And are they wanting to pay cash? That's interesting. That's and unusual for someone to go from being a tenant to being able to pay cash for a home.
Yeah, they're selling a business. They have a business that they own with a relative, and they're taking the cash out and they're going to move up here.
Okay. Interesting. And what are they going to do for employment up here?
He's starting a similar business on his own.
Okay. So in other words, they would have a hard time getting a loan.
Probably. Yeah.
Okay. And are they okay living in a rural area?
Yeah, I think they're having a reality check about what they can afford.
Mhm.
Like the houses we looked at were dumpy. So I think it was like a shocker. So I don't even know that they're good clients. Honestly, I sort of felt like they wasted my time.
Mhm.
But that question is interesting because I had just heard it 2 weeks before. I mean, that statement, I just heard it. And I'm thinking, I need to know what to say when someone says that.
Yeah, well, this is a particularly interesting situation because they're going to be using their own cash to buy a home, and that is also limiting them, but then also they need capital to probably start a new business. And so, it's one of the things that they might look at. Did you say they sold the business with someone else?
It's his brother. He's in business with his brother.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So his brother must have also cashed out of the business as well.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I think his brother's keeping the business in California, and he's going to do a similar thing here. He's going to do the same thing here.
Okay. So, but here's where the clarifying questions come in. And I'll tell you where I was going with that, is that maybe his brother could loan him some money. See, because he can't get a conventional loan if he's usually when you start a business, you need 2 years tax returns of qualifying income in order to establish the ability to get a conventional loan, right?
Yeah.
But he just did a successful business apparently with his brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who is, and I don't know the terms of cashing him out or what that meant, but if the guy is going to be buying a house with cash, the business must have done pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So where I'm going with this is, you might be looking at a certain class of homes that say, whatever, $300,000, $400,000, right? But maybe the brother can loan him $100,000, and that completely changes the equation.
Mm-hmm.
Or someone else, right?
Yeah.
Because think about the loan. If I'm the lender, first of all, how much money can I earn by putting the money in the bank right now?
Nothing.
Exactly. Okay. But if I do a loan, let's just say even at 5%, which would be below market rate, right? that would be, you know, something like 5 to 10 times as much as I could get from the bank. And I would, do you see how I'd have a first deed of trust?
Mhm.
And do you see how I'd have like 70% equity behind my position? That's a darn good loan.
Mhm.
Okay. And it provides me a source of income. And if not the brother, like I said, maybe someone else. Maybe you have other investors that would like to do first deeds of trust.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of people are not aware that you can actually put money into a self-directed retirement account and do notes secured by deeds of trust on real estate. In fact, that's a really good way for realtors to generate passive income. My folks have done a fantastic job of that. They've, you know, most of their careers, real estate careers, they had over $1 million loaned out on notes secured by deeds of trust. They typically were doing it with flippers and earning a higher income, but
Mhm.
you know, in the environment now, that's a little riskier to do that, right?
Yeah.
But geez, who wouldn't want to have a first with more than 50% behind their position? So my point is, you might be able to turn that subpar borrower into a really good borrower,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And, and they might not have much income, but you know, if they're borrowing $100,000 at 5%, that's $5,000 a year. It's like it's $425 a month. It's nothing. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So, you know, in other words, by bringing these sorts of ideas to their awareness, you might completely change the equation, earn yourself an extra 30% commission, make it easier to find a home. They end up happier. And then after they've established themselves in this new business, if it's successful and they get 2 years tax returns, they're just going to refi out of that and cash the note out anyway.
Mhm.
Okay.
Great idea. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. All right. We did we get another question in our chat box here in the meanwhile? Sarah's asking how long the rates are going to go up, you know, until they tame inflation would be my answer. And this is a thing that we don't know, but you know, the way you're going to articulate that to the client is that you're going to say, well, they're going to likely continue trending up until inflation is trending down. So keep an eye on inflation. Here's you guys may or may not have come across this objection, but I'm gonna share it with you because whenever I do this illustration for someone, and when I say illustration, I literally draw this on a paper for them. It's always surprising. Okay. You might end up, now that the market is correcting a little bit, you might end up with a seller saying to you, and I'm curious if anyone has had this in the last few weeks, you know, I'm going to wait till the market gets a little bit better again. Okay. And so let me tell you about how these corrections typically go. Okay. Right now, we're in what I would refer to as a cresting period. Okay. So because real estate is an illiquid investment, it's not like the stock exchange where you can just buy and sell every day. The values change very slowly. And remember, we've come out of a super, super strong seller's market with really scarce inventory, right? And you know how it does vary by market, but in kind of a general rule of thumb is that a balanced market is 6 months of inventory, okay? But it does matter if the inventory is trending up or trending down, by the way. If the inventory is trending up, a balanced market that equilibrium will usually be reached sooner. If the inventory is trending down, which it's not, it will usually be reached later. So what we're definitely trending up in terms of inventory, but the inventory has not created, except in some markets in the high end, it's not created enough inventory to actually start collapsing the prices. But that is very likely to occur. So usually what will happen is you'll have a crest for a year, and then it will drop for 2. So I want you to write on a piece of paper, like you've got, imagine just this kind of like this small little crusting, right? And that goes 12 months. And I'm saying that that crusting started about 90 days ago. Okay. And then after the cresting period, the inventory will reach that equilibrium where it'll switch to a buyer's market, and then you'll start to see the prices drop. And they will typically, in a normal correction, they will typically drop 20 to 25%. Okay. And so, by the way, don't be going out to your clients and saying, okay, well, this is what's going to happen. It's going to crest for a year, it's going to drop for 2, and then flat for 2, and then slow. Okay, I'm going to tell you what it has historically occurred in cycles. Okay, but there's all kinds of things that will influence how that cycle is going to behave. Okay, the Fed actually was trying to raise the rates in the fall of 2018. Some of you were around that time, and you might have noticed when they started raising the rates, they did 3 adjustments. The market started softening immediately. They got all spooked, and then they started dropping the rates again, and they were dropping them up until about 6 months ago. Okay, and they overstimulated the market. The point is that we should have had a correction in 2018. Okay, and what happens when the longer that they push that off and that stimulus occurs, generally, the harder the fall. Okay, but we have an X factor this time. We have inflation. We haven't had that before with one of these corrections. We also have the builders didn't go crazy this time. Okay, so there are some camps out there that will tell you we're not going to have a price correction, actually. Even though all these past cycles have been 20, 25% down pretty consistently. The last one was more like 40 with the crash of 2008. And I think that that extra little hit came because of some pretty irresponsible lending practices that caused a kind of a cascading effect of avalanche of foreclosures. And we have had much more conservative lending standards this go around. However, we also had a lot of people in there with low down payments. Even though it was hard to get people in with low down payments, we did get them in. And so there are plenty of people that are going to be upside down. But going back to our graph, 1 year of crest, 2 years of decline, usually that declines 20 to 25%, 2 years of flat. And then what happens is it starts to come back, and it starts slow. Usually the first year is only 2 or 3%, and then it will accelerate as it gets later in the cycle. Okay, so check your math here. If the market drops by even 20%, and it's 1 year to crest, 2 years to down, 3 years for flat. And so now, do you see how we're 1, 3, 5, we're 5 years in, and we're down 25% still. Okay. Now check this out. Even if from that point, the home values went up at 5% a year, which they almost never do. Okay. They start off at 2 or 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 7, and then 10, and then 20 or something. Okay. Right at the end of the cycle. Okay. When you do that math, you're going to see it takes like 9 years to get back to today's value. So that seller that's saying, yeah, I'm going to wait, till the fall when things are a little bit better or whatever. No, that isn't going to be what's going to happen. Okay. They could be waiting 9 years. In other words, if this cycle behaves as past cycles have, you would be 9 years to get back to today's value. Pretty crazy when you think about it that way. But if you go back and you look at all the stats, that's what it's going to tell you. Right? And so that ought to help you to get, man, I'll tell you, I've spoken about this on previous trainings to you guys, but if you do you know you can go to the title company and you can identify people that are 60, 65 years old that have income properties out there. Okay. They don't have the time to wait for another cycle to go through. Call, solicit those folks. They should have sold 6 months ago, right? But it would be better now because there's still, where the uncertainty is. And I have, by the way, a certain amount of uncertainty. So I'm telling you how normal cycles have behaved, but because we've had this scarcity of inventory, because we haven't had overbuilding, and I don't really know, right? I'm just telling you what history is telling us, right? And if I were betting, I told you a few minutes ago, the number one thing that I put more credence on than any other is the affordability index. And I heard last week, again, it's on YouTube, so I'm not telling you it's the gospel, okay? But I heard that we were at a 35-year low in terms of affordability nationwide. And what that tells me is the probability of a price decline is extraordinarily high. Okay. All right. What's another good objection that you guys are encountering that you'd like to have some ammo for?
I've got one for you, Don.
Yes, sir.
Price reductions. Real quick story here. I talked to some sellers at the end of April, and they drug their feet for about 3 weeks before we finally listed it. So the end of April to kind of middle to end of May was a totally different animal altogether.
Yeah.
So we ran about $10,000 less on asking than we were originally thinking. And then it sat on the market for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm watching everything around me just take a haircut on a daily basis, like $25,000 to $45,000, like quick. I'm down in Galt, just south of Sacramento. And I went to my sellers and I said, hey, I presented the evidence to them. I said, this is what we're looking at here. We might need to come down a little bit. We actually did get in a contract about $15,000 less than we were asking, but for the purpose of this call, how would you handle stubborn sellers like that did not want to come off at all? They got lucky, actually. Some Bay Area money came in and they got close to asking, thankfully. Yeah.
Well, first of all, one of the things that I really like about what I heard you did is you went out and got the facts and you presented them with the evidence. In other words, you didn't say, hey, I think you need to lower your price. You went out and you collected the data and you said, I want you to see what's going on in this marketplace right now. Do you see this home reduced 20,000, this home 35,000, this home 20? Okay. Do you see this home reduced 25 and then went pending? Right? In other words, this is where you want to be really careful of having them kill the messenger.
Yeah.
The messenger is not you. The messenger is the data of the market, and you're simply helping them to see that. You're providing a transparent market to them so that they can make a good decision. Okay, by the way, sellers are actually smarter than we think. Okay. Do you know why they often will not give us price reductions? Can you guess? They think the risk is yours. You're in a contingency fee. And if they don't sell, they think they could even list with another agent. It doesn't cost them any money to not sell, right? The problem is, okay, you're looking right now at somebody that was selling property just north of you in Sacramento during the early 90s, when there was 18 to 24 months of inventory. Okay, if I had $100 for every seller that followed the market down, oh my gosh. Okay, and you know how many times I would go to a seller and say, okay, well, the market indicates that we need to be somewhere between 349 and 369. And of course, they would go on at 389. Okay. And then 60 days later, they would say, okay, Don, we'll go down to 369. And I say, well, now we need to be between 329 and 349. And they go, well, we can only go to 369. Okay. And then another 60 days goes by and they say, okay, we'll go to 349. Okay, well, now we need to be at 319 to 329. I mean, and they just fall. And I sold, by the way. One of the reasons why I had such a successful career during that time is because I sold so many expired listings. That's another thing, you guys, is that the really critical piece of working with sellers is communication. If you wait for those sellers to call you, I mean, because it becomes an uncomfortable situation, right? Because their home is not selling. If you wait for it, you lost. Okay. The only calls that count are the ones that you're making to them. And you better be making at least one a week to them. If you ever feel compelled to not communicate with your client, you should just give the listing back, because they're going to go tell 11 people how crappy you are. Okay. And so don't allow them to follow the market down. So to answer your question, though, is largely do what you did, right? Was go out and collect the evidence. Now, when I have done that, by the way, and then not had them, they're like, well, but my green carpet is better. Okay. And so I've literally had to put people in my car and drive them, even though we can look at all the pictures and everything, right? I would literally take them to the homes and have them see what was going on. And usually, when you go view the marketplace through the eyes of a buyer, they get realistic. And here's the thing, okay? Oftentimes, this is kind of how I started off this conversation, is what was the motive for selling? And here's an interesting little takeaway phrase for you. Are you in a position to rent? In other words, if they think that you're just pushing them to lower the price so that you can generate a commission, oh my gosh, they're going to put up all kinds of resistance, right? So switch it around on them and just say, well, are you in a position to rent? Would you still be able to make your move, buy the home in the new? No. We can't do that because we need the cash from this home to buy that home. Okay, well then we're going to need to do what it takes to make this happen.
And my guys are renting. They actually got out, their house was vacant. They were actually renting. They want to sell towards the top of the market. They want to move up to Oregon in like 8 years. They want to have the money in the bank to make their move. So that was their situation.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So I like how you handled it and it worked, right? I mean, you feel that you got lucky, but
we did get lucky because, I mean, honestly, they got all the money for that house, I think, based on today's market.
Yeah.
Some Bay Area money came in and got it done. But I think if it would have sat for a couple more weeks, we're down in the high fours.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Yeah. And by the way, when you work hard, sometimes you just get lucky. So, and that's okay. We take luck too. Just, but I don't want you to run your business practice on that, right? What I want you to do is go out and position yourself with clients that need to buy and sell, right? I used to give this class on getting price reductions, and I'll try it with you guys and see how you do. I had this fun little exercise. I'll say, can anybody tell me the absolute best way to get a price reduction? You guys want to offer up some ideas? You, for example, went and got the comps, right? That's one way, right? What's some other ways of getting price reductions?
How about sending an estimated settlement statement showing the difference in their net?
Yeah, that's absolutely another way. By the way, I did something kind of fun. I would, back, this is how old I am, but we used to have Harmon Homes magazine. I was like, hey, if you'll reduce your price, I'll put you in the Homes magazine at the new price. And we wanted, we want that switch to happen before it goes to print, right? I call that event reduction pricing. So that's another idea. That's not the answer. Okay. Okay. I'll tell you what the answer is. Have more listings than you need. Okay. In order for me to achieve the level of sales that I wanted to achieve when I was selling in the mid 90s in Sacramento, I had to have 30 active listings. 30 active listings would then translate to 10 active escrows. And I was able to just maintain that equilibrium. Okay. But here's what I can tell you. When my listing inventory dropped below 30, how effective do you think I was at getting price reductions? Not very effective, right? Because I wasn't holding the cards. I wasn't in a position to let go. Because in my mind, I'm like, well, wait a second, Don, you got to have 30 listings in order to maintain this. I was doing like 60 sales a year, right? And so, but let me tell you, when I got up with that 34, 35 listings, if sellers wouldn't come around, I'd tell them to pound sand. I'd give them their listing back, right? I mean, you're going to do it in a nice and a professional way and all this, but I'm telling you, the way to get a price reduction is to have more listings than you need, right? So anyway, that, and so that begs the question, how many listings do you need to achieve your goals? Right? I knew in my business, I needed 30. Even in the market that we're in right now, which is shifting, it'd be almost impossible to get 30, right? So you guys, we're going to have to wrap up here in a minute. And so I want to give you a couple reminders. Megan just sent out an email about the masterminds. And one of the things that we've done is we have formed a mastermind for pretty much any way of doing business. If your thing is YouTube, you should join Amy Sedgwick's mastermind. If it's digital marketing, Bob Mayako's. If it's prospecting, you should join Russell's. If it is Icon by referral, you should join me. By the way, email me at don@proinsight.com if you want to join my mastermind. Our first meeting is going to be Friday, I think it's 9 a.m. On the 8th of July. And Sarah, if you haven't gotten that email from Megan, just reach out to her, Megan@proinsight.com, and she'll forward it to you. But she said, I saw it went out again this morning. But anyway, what we want you guys is for every one of you to get into a mastermind group. There's no cost to you at all for this. It's being led by our top leaders. And you guys will meet at least once a month as a group. You'll be paired up into accountability support partners, and you'll be able to share best practices with people all over the country that are doing business the way that you primarily want to do it, right? And so I encourage you to do that. And also, even though today's class was about overcoming objections, and I hope I gave you a mindset of how to deal with these objections, don't be afraid to email me, text me, whatever. If you're stumbling in your business and you feel just really hamstrung by, even Tom Daves, occasionally 40 years in the business, he'll call me because he's got some really irrational seller, right? That won't reduce her price or whatever was the last one. Don't be shy to reach out. I'm happy to role play with you, or at least just talk through the scenario, right? And but just remember, be really careful about telling people what you can do. You really want to use the market data and just and be an authority on the marketplace, be a student of the market, and so that you can help people so that they self-discover into a good decision. And when people ask you questions, start off by asking clarifying questions, right? And so that they know that you are giving it a thoughtful response. All right, I'm going to shut off the recording. But Kenny, I think you did a fine job in your situation, and congratulations on getting that sucker. Is it still in escrow?
Yeah, we scheduled to close 2 weeks from today. Thank you.
And is it a cash deal or with a loan?
With a loan, 1031.
Okay.
Yep.
So they do have to, they do have, one of the reasons why you got lucky is because they're in a 1031.
I
Okay.
thought about that too. Yeah, they were on the clock big time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. But here's another, last thing I want to leave you guys with. Now that the market is shifting, okay, the appraisers are going to start getting gun shy. Do not take the appraisal for granted. Be overly prepared with comps and such, and make sure that you and your lender are prepared for that appraiser to come out, and and have your sellers staging the homes. And in other words, if you lose an appraisal right now and that home has to go back on the market, that is not going to be a pretty scene. Okay, so don't take it for granted that that deal is a done deal. All right, you guys, I'm going to let you go, and thank you for taking the time to be with us.